Trainer Dan, and today we're going to look at alternate bicep curls. Now, everybody has probably done them, and they're very simple to perform. And while it can be argued there are right techniques and wrong techniques, which there are, what I would like to look at today is maximising ranges of movements for achieving different types of goals. And this is exactly what you guys should be doing when you're training, utilising this technique. So we'll start by just looking at physique goals. So you're after hypertrophy, you're after really developing fullness in the bicep, so you've got your disco muscles and everything looks great. Now it's this medial head that you're looking to really develop, so you've got a nice kind of full look within the bicep. Therefore, your emphasis through this range of movement should be supinating. And as much as that is the movement anyway, as you're going through that bicep curl, there tends to be not enough emphasis for people who are trying to achieve physique goals. And this usually tends to happen because they'll overload with weight, not kind of understand the emphasis that has to be placed upon that range of movement, and it just tends to go downhill from there. Now, with supination being the emphasis, it is going to be an active thought process throughout the range of movement. So if we go into that a little bit deeper, and we'll just start by, I'll pick up one dumbbell and I'll kind of show you. As we're going up through this range, we want a nice early turn, and you want to utilise this for really establishing contact with this little finger side of the palm pushing up through the dumbbell, okay? What will happen is your body is going to instinctively want to transition the load through the strongest portion of whatever muscle group. And in this case, it's going to be the brachialis. It's going to, because it's like 50% stronger than the biceps. So with that, your body is going to try and keep all that weight over this index finger and the thumb side of the hand. And we've got to emphasize it where we put the emphasis through that push, through that little finger side, and squeeze it up all the way around, and ensuring that on that lowering that we're still keeping that contact on the way down, so we're getting a really good eccentric contraction on the way down. So your movement and your turn is quite important that you do this at the start and at the finish. So let me show you. So it's got to be in the same range. So as you're lifting up, there's the point of your turn. I'm emphasising that pressure on this side of my hand as I supinate up. I'm lifting right the way through, and then on the way down, I don't want to just turn too early, because then what I've done, I've just rotated everything down, or the majority of the weight down on eccentric through the brachialis, so we don't want that. We want this medial head, short head, sorry, really emphasised. So we want to bring it down long and then turn it at that same point at the bottom. Now with the alternate curl, you can utilise this turn at the bottom to emphasise that pressure through the hand. And it's a good idea to practice this with reduced weight, so that you're going engaging with yourself, the sensation of getting that hit through that short head, okay? And then move on to your greater weights. So, for example, we're sitting in position and we're squeezing up through it, okay? I'm gonna bring it down nice and long, like so, and then turn at the same point. And then same on that opposite side, put the emphasis in, bring it down long, don't turn too early, and then turn on that last point. So some other factors that I want to look at, and it's applicable pretty much no matter what you're trying to achieve, and that is some little details to your range of movement. I will start off, if you heard me say, bring the movement down long. What I mean by that is, when you're getting fatigued, or if you are lifting too heavy, or just not thinking about your technique, both on the way up and on the way down, you can shorten your movement by tipping the arm inwards. Now, there is kind of a benefit for that if you know why you're doing it. But for general kind of work, you don't want to do it, okay? It's not your emphasis, it's not your goal. You don't need that, especially for physique goals, okay? So you don't want to be bringing it this way on the way up, or even if you're bringing it quite sort of strict on the way up, you don't want to then shorten the movement on the way down, because again, you're placing that emphasis through the brachialis, through that eccentric, because we've now kind of pronated the hand and you're not hitting the bicep at all. So you can end up sort of doing this kind of movement and you're just not hitting where you want. You're not stimulating the biceps. If you're purposely doing that to get the brachialis involved, that's fine. But if you're not, you want to steer clear. So when I say long, we've got that turn, like I said, bringing it right the way up. And then as we come down, we've still got to keep that range and angle, emphasising that weight through that little finger side, and then turning at the same point, and then the same on the opposite side, keeping it down, nice and steady, nice and long, not shortening, okay, don't shorten it. And then the next thing is your elbow position. So I'm just gonna use one arm here. With this, again, there's one that is a definite no-no, and that is as you're coming up, the elbow coming backwards. It's kind of useless. What's happening is you're reducing the weight that is going to be then lifted through the bicep, okay? You're altering the fulcrum line. So you've then got less actual tension going through that muscle. So going backwards is never a good one. So you've got to keep an eye on that. We want to keep this elbow as fixed as possible. And I try and avoid lifting the elbow upwards, because we've got the same kind of process. We're altering that fulcrum line. Again, now, we can utilise that technique as you come up, okay? And there is a reason for doing it. It's for really emphasising the contraction through that long head, but it's not that great. So in general, I would just aim for keeping that elbow as fixed as you can in position, keeping that little finger emphasis around on that side, and again, just keeping it nice and long, really trying to keep this stable. And then just one more thing is your posture. So you've all seen the guy, you might even be the guy who's in the gym and you're just like throwing everything back and either leaning back into it, or the weight you get stuck up there and you come down into it. Don't do that, because you're now no longer producing a curl, okay? And there's too much leverage from everything else to justify that was even a rep. It makes sense, I know, but I'm just throwing this out there because you see it all the time, okay? Now, one thing I like to do is I like to run this through my core, and it does kind of help me keep my back stable. Even when I feel that natural tendency to kind of want to lean back, when I've got a core activation, I'm anchored. So the way I kind of work is I would always put a slight bend in the knees, okay? And then I activate transabs. So I'll pull the belly button in, keep that anchored, and then really try and be nice and strict. And what I will try and do through that range of movement then is I will pull the belly button in tighter as I go through the lift. So as I'm going through the lift there, I'll pull in tight. I'll keep that engaged, super strong, as it comes down. So it feels as if, as I've got that weight straining and lowering down, I'm holding that tension through the transabs. I'll have a quick release, and then I will activate the same again. So I'll tighten up, pull the belly button in tighter, tighter, tighter. And then from there, I'm just sat, I'm pivoted on the hips. And when I pull that belly button in, it's very hard for me to sort of try and go backwards, because I'm then just holding that tight through that core. And just one more thing, specific to hypertrophy, you want to really watch your pacing, okay? It's quite easy for you to rush it out, especially when you're fatigued, and kind of throw yourself, even if you've got a range, throw yourself in a position where you've created momentum and the muscle isn't stimulated all the way through. So you'll kind of bounce that first bit, and then you're really just contracting for that last bit because you put so much effort into it, and then maybe you'll lose your eccentric on the way down, okay? So if I give you an example of that, so if I go quick up there, I've just snatched it up, okay, and I haven't felt any stimulation whatsoever through the bicep. I'm not saying you've got to go ultra slow, but putting that emphasis on the muscle having tension through all the way through is better for hypertrophy than just simply bouncing your way through the repetitions and avoiding that tension through the bicep. You should feel it yourself, and as I said, it's a good idea to drop your weights down, go for sensation, perfect your technique a little bit, have a little bit of work on that, and then build your weights up, and you'll see the benefits of it very, very quickly. Okay, so now we're going to look at utilising your alternate dumbbell curls with strength being the objective, and obviously that is going to mean increased weight, and we're still going to be supinating because it's an alternate dumbbell curl, it's not a hammer curl, but you can kind of be forgiven for having less emphasis on the supination, okay? So as you go up, and because it's that increased weight, you may find you are engaging the weight through the sort of index finger and thumb side of the palm, okay? Especially on this side as you're getting up towards that halfway point. As you get up to the top, I would really try and just emphasize a little squeeze through this little finger side so we get a little bit of supination, and then really maximize the eccentric phase as you come down. It's going to be a power movement up, but you don't want to sacrifice, just like I've said with the sort of hypertrophy type technique, you don't want to lose the connection and the contraction all the way through, so you're not just throwing yourself out of that range of movement. So I'll just give you an example of that. So if I'm just lifting it up, and my turn might be a little bit late, okay? So it is, all right? So my turn's a little bit late, but I'm going to emphasize up at the top, and then I'm really going to just slow it down. I'm bringing it down long still, so I'm going to turn it low at the bottom, okay? Power it up, and then bring it down nice and long. Like I say, you can be a little bit more forgivable with the turn, so you might turn a little bit later with the heavier weight, squeeze it up to the top, emphasize the supination up at the top, and then really try and put the eccentric on the way down. Reps wise, you might be working probably 10 total reps, 5 each side. So even though you're lifting heavy, it's still really important that you don't overload to the point where you've got complete technique loss. Again, you don't want to be pulling it short, okay? You want to still be keeping it long. Powerful movements up, a little bit forgivable on the supination on the lower point, emphasize it a little bit more on the way down, and you should be good, you should get some good benefits. Don't be in a position where you're just hurling it up like this and getting it down. You're just getting no real benefits from that whatsoever. So there we have just a few benefits of utilising different techniques within the same technique, and try and understand what it is that you're trying to do, and then go for that variation of technique. It will be a game changer for obviously the benefits and the results that you get, because you'll be emphasising what you need for the goal you're trying to achieve.